Welcome back, everyone. Well, as we all know, it's a very contentious national election, and a lot of the principles are not really, a lot of the priorities aren't even being spoken about. But here in the 21st District, we have a very interesting race going on with some very credible candidates. And joining me today is the candidate, running on the Democratic ticket, Mike Derrick. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. Mike and I just saw each other recently when we recorded the 21st congressional debate up in Queensbury.
Right.
Just
last week.
Yeah, just last week. And we got a terrific reaction from that. And I think part of the reason, Mike, was that it was handled really well, and every one of the candidates had the opportunity to really speak about the issues.
Yeah.
And that's probably, like I opened, in this particular election, that's kind of refreshing. Unfortunately, but fortunately for us, right?
No, it was a great debate. I really enjoyed it, and having the audience in the room was fantastic. Being at SUNY Adirondack, at a university, at a college, very good.
Yeah, it was. It was a nice crowd too, by the way, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
They're very involved. I like that.
Right.
This is an opportunity to cover a couple of different things. I want to know about some of your priorities and whatever. But of interest to our viewers, I know, is why'd you get involved? You had such an interesting career in the Army. Why are you involved?
Right. Well, I grew up in Peru, New York, which is just south of Plattsburgh. Went to school there, and then, went to West Point in 1981, served 28 years in the Army. And then when I retired, I moved back to my hometown. And so I'm part of that American tradition when people who serve in the Army, they come from a certain place in our nation. When they're done with their service, be it long or short, they go back home. And then, given the sense of service that we all who've served in the military have, you want to do something of value. You want to give back to your community.
Yeah.
And so I looked around and I said, hey, I can run for Congress, and I should run for Congress. Our nation needs me right now, and our region also. We need a different kind of leadership.
It's spoken like a true veteran. It really is. We say that people that watch this program know that we do a lot with veterans groups and whatever. It takes a certain kind of person to be that dedicated to,
That's right.
to do that. You also had another dimension that I thought was interesting that I picked up in the debate. You're a professor as well.
Yes. So
That's
I went
right.
to West Point, and then my wife, who's also a West Point graduate, she and I both taught there, mid-90s, taught history. And, it's remarkable to have the privilege of teaching some of the brightest young people in America.
Yes.
And when you learn something in a classroom, you learn it once. When you teach it, you learn it for a lifetime.
Yes,
And
you're
so
right.
that has shaped my life going forward.
I bet 2 points about that I think are interesting. You're right, that some of the most talented people in the world are your students.
Yeah.
And that's a two-way street, teaching, isn't it? You're teaching them something, but you're learning something from them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now we've kind of gone full circle because we have a son there. And so now going back to visit our son, who's a sophomore, and seeing, the same institution, now we've visited it 3 different times in different decades in different ways.
Well, to say that the 21st District, by the way, has a large footprint, I hope you have good shoes. I mean, you're talking from Watertown all through the Adirondack Park, coming down into northern Saratoga County. You've been in the trenches now for a while. What have you learned about the 21st District that you want to make priorities if you go to Washington?
Yeah, it's a remarkable place. I'd say that first.
Yeah.
We've got 5 destinations that people come to visit. Lake Ontario, Thousand Islands, Lake Champlain, Lake George just up the road, and the Adirondack Park.
Yes.
And all of this in one congressional district. And then we have this remarkable population, but it's spread out. It's not all in one place. So it's a special place in our country, and I've lived all over our country and all over the world. So it's remarkable to come back home, and I realize just how unique this place is.
They say that travel is the best education. You just mentioned you're all over the world. That enables you to use that experience, right? Of seeing having a lot of different experiences and bringing it back home again. I want to pick up on something that you were talking about in the debate. That one of the priorities was communication within the district. What did you mean by that?
It's about information infrastructure.
Yeah, got it, okay.
So it's this enormous district, a widely distributed population, a lot of which is rural, and we are not well served by broadband, and we are not well served by cellular communication. And I just drove down from Peru, New York this morning, about 2/3 of that journey you don't get a cell signal.
Yeah.
And so how are we as a people, how are we as a region supposed to participate in the 21st century economy without those fundamental tools? That's our farmers, that's our small businesses, that's our schools, our universities. We have 10 colleges and universities, and it's the people who live there.
Yeah,
and so we need that. And, you know, for example, right now we've got some great initiatives that are going on. Senator Gillibrand's behind one. That would be, for me, an immediate priority in Washington.
Give me another priority.
Let's stay in the infrastructure category, but
Okay,
let's
sure.
look at other types of infrastructure that could give us greater economic vitality in this region. You know, we need some better east-west transportation corridors.
Yes,
right now it's limited. You know, we've got great north-south on the east side and on the west side, but we don't have that east-west artery that's functional for business, that's functional for individuals, tourism, for example. And that's something I think we could make a significant difference on, and it could be led from the federal level.
I've got it. You know, it was Henry Ford who made the comment. They asked him what drove him to make cars, and it had nothing to do with the vehicles. It had to do with connecting people.
Right.
That's where the real economic growth comes from being able to connect with people. What would you ask of the voters at this point? We've got about 2 weeks to go.
Yeah. So I would ask voters to get involved and own their own democracy. You know, we have this marvelous democratic system that has kept our nation intact for 240 years. We're the longest standing republic in the world. But it only works if people get involved and own their own democracy. And right now our democracy is being stressed. Some would say it's under siege. You know, we've got the influence of money in politics, which is diluting the voice of ordinary people.
Right.
We have to do something about that.
Well, you know, in a district as diverse as the 21st, that really resonates, Mike.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it really does. And it, let's face it, on a national level, it's just about as chaotic as it could possibly get.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's courageous. You
Well,
think
thank
being
you.
in the
Thank
military
you.
was courageous? Wait till
It's a different kind of courage, but it's courage nonetheless. You
Yes,
know, and
it
I
is.
think if anything I bring to this, it's courage.
Good. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise,
and
Jesse.
thank you
Good.
for your service.
Yeah, thanks.
And also about your impending service, okay?
Well, it's just another phase of my life. It's another opportunity to do something that would make a difference, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Good. Thank you for stopping in.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's Mike Derrick. He is a Democrat candidate for 21st congressional seat. You want to see this interview again? You can head to our website, looktvonline.com.